Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Siobhán, the Celtic Empath, and I am getting around to doing another YouTube video. This will be 2 for me in 1 week, which is a bit of a record. So thank you for sticking with me and for hopefully hearing and finding some kind of use from my videos and what I'm sharing. Thank you very much to all of my subscribers that have found something perhaps interesting, I guess, in what I'm sharing, if at least it's just the experience of one Irish empath, light warrior person who I guess is trying to figure out on a daily basis and a weekly basis what the light warrior empath route actually is and what it entails and how it's all unfolding for us, often in a lot of similarities but also uniquely for each one of us individually. So thank you to have a number of new subscribers, so welcome and thank you for finding your way here to me. And I am Irish, so I do have a certain slang way of talking, and a lot of ams and humming might happen as well in between words. But I do have something to say, and I have something that I've been wanting to share, that I've been getting around to sharing, and I guess that, you know, it's a challenging road, like when you kind of figure out or realize or identify as being awakened, being a light warrior, when you realize that, you know, there's a lot more to life and to energy, to what we're experiencing. And so in order to integrate in many of these aspects of ourselves, like, it becomes a real challenge, like just in ordinary everyday life, in our relationships and in our work, especially what it is that we're doing and what it is that we might hope or want to do. And then also there's the other side of it. It's also the part of living up to what we've chosen to do, what we've come here to do, like our soul path, our soul journey, whatever our soul mission, I guess, is. So and the thing is that this year 2020 has been such like a mad year, that like these energies, the ascension energies, whatever way you want to call it or identify it or to name it, it's speeding up, isn't it? Like everything is moving so quickly, even though, okay, we're all in lockdown and we may feel that things are going quite slowly from day to day, but energetically speaking, there is so much happening, and so that has been leading me to talk a little bit about energy work and about dream work. And I have been busy setting up my website, which is officially tonight actually launched, and it's live. Now it's got all the basic information of my services and been able to contact me and stuff. So like everything at the moment, it's a work in progress, and not to mention the fact that many of us individual light warriors, we're all like striking out on our own and having to do multitask and get a lot of this stuff done ourselves. So so yeah, thank you for hanging in there anyways with me as I am slowly creating my stuff online. And that's kind of a twofold thing, because I think as empaths and empathic people, it's really hard to put ourselves out there. It's really hard to be seen, and this is like a big thing that personally I come up against all the time. I would say a lifetime of it at this stage, and there's a number of variables for that, why, you know, why we feel like that, or why we end up behaving like that, or why we take on that belief. But I can say that for me, to be seen has been a real struggle, and to be seen, to really allow for especially on the internet, anybody who could be watching, to really to see who this important aspect of me is. So it's really kind of public when you start putting your content up onto the internet. It's kind of like, it's very scary, and you know, it's hard like to put yourself in the public eye. And I know that, like, I know I'm not alone here. I know that there's an awful lot of people the same as me who are holding themselves back, who are not putting their stuff out there, and maybe still trying to figure out what is the way to do it. And I'm the same. I'm still figuring stuff out, and figuring out, is social media, is this really something? Because if I felt like I had a choice as such, in the sense of the word, I wouldn't be putting myself up on social media. I didn't have Facebook until a few years ago. Prior to that, I didn't start using a mobile phone until about 10 years ago, probably about 10 years. But lots of people, everybody was using them and had them and stuff before I even started to use a mobile phone. But so to get to this stage of eventually sharing what it is that I'm doing as a light worker here based in Ireland, I have a couple of updates, but I'm going to stick with one of the updates tonight, and one of them is to connected with dreaming and dream work and astral travelling. And so where do I start? I guess I start with the update, really, don't I? And then I can backtrack if I need to. So I've made a couple of like sporadic videos. I don't go into probably a great amount of detail, but I've made 2 videos recently in relation to dreaming and astral travelling, and kind of what's the story, what's happening when we're astral travelling. So that will give you, for new people, that will give you some insight into where I'm going with this video. So I have been astral travelling, and I've been aware of my dreams, and aware as much as I am allowed to by spirit, to know consciously, to bring that information into my conscious mind during the waking state, or when I wake up in the morning, so that I know where I've been, or what I've been doing, or who I've been with astrally, or what's happening to me astrally. So what happened recently, of course we know that there's an awful lot of as Trump would say, the swamp has been drained. So I'm not going to go into detail about that. People who need to know about that, or who are aware, know exactly what I'm referencing. So the swamp is being drained, and it has been very much drained. And as a light worker, I am a particular type of an energy worker healer. Now, all of my clairaudient, my clairs as they say, my clair skills are all developed. I've gone through many initiations that has fully opened up and wakened up my my sensory channels as such. I'm also what's called a splenic projector. So for people into human design, will also know what a splenic projector is. So I'm not going to explain in detail what that means. But that makes an awful lot of sense in relation to how I operate and how I experience the world and how I sense the world, because of this type of intuitive basis that I operate from all the time. As a result of that developed all of my skills psychically, and I have gone through a number of the ascension processes, if you like. So my mind this year expanded exponentially, my consciousness even more so than I would ever imagined, even a year ago, 2 years ago, even though I was still quite an aware and awoken individual, and I tend to be quite ahead with information, comparative to people that I would know around me in my life. I have gone through many spiritual and astral experiences. So that's just a little bit of my background, a little bit, without going into stories or details as such, but just to try and give you some sense or basis of who I am and what I'm about, talking about this kind of stuff. So astrally, I'm well aware that I am working at nighttime, and which is what happens to us. It's been happening quite a bit this year that healers in particular are being called out at nighttime to do an awful lot of astral work. And because I am more of a healer, then that is my particular attribute, is to have healing skills, so I can channel through quite high frequency energies, and therefore I get called upon. Now, of course, these skills have to be earned as well. You earn these. So I didn't just wake up with them. I went through a number of processes throughout my life in order to be trusted with these spiritual skills. So what happened is, basically, long story short, so I was dreaming, and I was at the end of the dream, and there was a lot going on, but the part that I became conscious of, that I brought into my conscious mind and woke up to, that I channeled through in the morning time, just before I woke up, this is the important piece. This is the piece that Spirit allows us to have when we're astral traveling. This is the piece that can be shared safely, that isn't going to compromise the mission or compromise the work that's been done, or compromise yourself, your soul, spiritually or otherwise. So waking up that morning, I was in an underground bunker, and I was being given a tour and being shown around this underground bunker, and it was massive. It was like a massive place with all different buildings and sheds and corridors and hallways, and it was all underground, but this place was huge. You know, it was like a massive warehouse complex, but it was all underground, if you can imagine that. It's hard to imagine. So I was being given a tour of this particular place, and I was being shown by an individual who I am not going to identify. That is the important part. There was a very strong spiritual protective presence with me, and this particular presence, which I am connected to, was giving me a tour and showing me all the work that had been done. So the draining of the swamp, basically, this particular base had been drained. So in order to help me understand what had been happening, to understand the mission that I was being tasked with, I was then shown, now what I was being shown first was the empty underground buildings, and that they were all emptied now and cleared out and cleaned, and all of the equipment and other stuff that would have been there, everything was completely taken out. So now there were just empty shells of these underground buildings. But then, to help me understand the mission that I was being tasked with, and that as a mission leader, that I would be leading other souls at nighttime to do this mission, I was then given a glimpse. So it was like the very strong, because this person whose individual is very strong soul, and this person was able to kind of give me a vision or imprint in front of me, kind of almost like a movie projector, was able to show me the scene prior to when they had actually drained it as such. So they were able to give me this vision, to show me what exactly this particular underground bunker was being used for. And now, I'm not into like horror movies. I don't actually watch horror movies. I'm not into like blood and gore and that sort of side of life. I've never been drawn to that element. and the way even Halloween has gone. I'm not into that. I'm not into like the way Halloween is celebrated now, the modern way of celebrating it. So what they showed me was a disturbing image of what, for one example of what was happening and going on underneath in these bunkers. And basically in this particular bunker, they showed me, it was a massive shed like construction, and they had a row of beds, and on top of these beds there were people. Now these were adults, not children. This particular scene, it was fully grown adults, and each bed, they were like those kind of sterile beds, you know, the ones that you'd see in like in a morgue, where on the TV show, and they'd have their kind of those steel sort of morgue beds where they do the autopsies on the bodies, and so, you know, all the blood and everything drains off. That's what they were essentially. But except that the people, and it was men, it was all men that was in this particular room. This is what this room was being used for. It was all men that was on top of men of different ages that were lying on top of each one of these sterile beds. And there was individuals who were doing all types of procedures over them. This is what I was being shown, that these people were all being experimented on, and that they were being experimented on while they were alive. They weren't being given painkillers, that all kinds of things were being done to them. They were being tested on, they were being experimented, probed, and organs been taken out and other things being put in. And it was, I could feel there was a lot of like blood and stuff all over the place, and all of these people, there was all kinds of experiments done to their brains, done to their bodies, and all these people were all actually still half alive. They were like half, you know, half in, half out. They weren't dead, but they were being experimented on and being used. And part of the experimentation was also a very sick, perverse feeling of this sense of torture, that also I would say the creatures that were performing these experiments, very intelligent creatures, almost human looking but not human looking, and devoid of any emotion whatsoever. They were getting a really strong kick or sense out of these experiments and doing these experiments, and knowing that how humans feel and react and feel pain and fear, and how these their bodies were reacting to the torture that they were experiencing. And so I could feel all of that like energy all inside, building up inside in the room, and how these, I'll call them the experimentors, were they were getting like an energy off of it. It's not like it was making them happy, because they're devoid of a lot of emotions. They don't really feel feelings, but it was like they were getting high kind of off of the energy, off of the fear and the experimentation, and then the power, knowing that they were in full control and that these people were suffering. And there was like just no regard or sense that they were half dead but still alive, and they were just being completely used, you know. So it was really gross. It was a really gross image, and it was really frightening. And at the time, there was all that feeling, that energy of all of that in the room, and it only lasted for a couple of seconds, because it wasn't really something I needed to be as such to really experience or to see, but I needed to know what it was so that I understood what was happening. So the part of the mission from that is that these people's souls were being taken and being harvested from their bodies. So they had a way of extracting the soul, so that once the physical body actually died, that they were able to take the soul and encapsulate it and actually move it away and it was being put into just like being preserved kind of a thing, and that the soul was taken off to another place. Lots of souls, thousands of them, have been harvested from these people who were experimented on. And so the mission that myself, that I was being tasked with, was to go on this soul-saving journey. And now after that, I did not know what to do with that information when I woke up, because I was like, oh my God, that was scary, that was different. And yet at the same time, it was okay, because I know at nighttime, you don't have the same human fears that you have. Your soul just goes off and just does the work that it needs to do. But during the day, my human self, my human person, my mind was coming in and going, oh my God, like that was horrific, that was horrible, that's been happening to people, and now we have to go and save all of their souls. And that's the mission, and that's what we've been doing for the past few weeks, quite a lot of us in our soul sleep. And so I spoke to a friend of mine who is a very good channel and a very good guide, and of course she knows that I'm struggling trying to do my energy work and talk about my energy work and tell people about what it is that I'm doing, and talk about like really far out stuff, the galactic stuff and everything. But I've crossed that bridge where I am now decided that I am committing to this, and that I am going to fully stand in my own integrity and power and actually talk about this stuff. No matter how far out there it's going to be for a lot of people, and particularly for people who know me or think they know me, but now they're going to know me in like a whole other way. And of course there's that like fear that people will judge me as being completely mad or something. But at the end of the day, I know what the truth is, I know what's happening, I know what's happening in the world, and I know what's happening off-world, galactically speaking. And I know that what's happening in the galactics is far more important than any insecurities or fears that the human part of me may have. So that's my story. But to end that story a little bit, I had been procrastinating and not sharing. And this is part of my message, why I'm wanting to talk about the struggle and the fear, is that I know that I'm not alone. I know that there are an awful lot of light workers and empaths who want to talk, or who want to be able to connect and talk more about their soul work, or just their experience as being empathic people, regardless of what your skill or talent it is. So because we're all bringing out our uniqueness, we're all working now in very unique different ways. And I received an email during the week, and I did respond to part of your email during the week, and this is the second part of my response, because I had been sitting on sharing this information for a long time, well, for a few weeks, even though I had been prompted to share it by my guides and by my good friend, who is usually pretty damn spot on. And when they had said to me, this is the information you have to start sharing with the world, like that completely, I still went, no, I'm not going talking about aliens and galactic things and such on YouTube or anywhere for that fact. But anyways, here I am doing it. But then I got an email during the week, and the email was telling me about a person who was aware of the fact that at night time that they were soul saving. And like, I nearly fell off my chair, because I don't know this person. They just happened to come across a completely different YouTube video that I'd put up on one of my dreaming subjects, and And then they were talking about the soul saving mission. I was like, oh my God. So I have to get myself organized and do the work and share it and get it out there. And so hopefully to other struggling empaths and struggling light workers, wherever you are living, and no matter what work it is that you're doing, that the way I see it is that, like, even I know YouTube, like, I can't believe I'm putting videos up on YouTube, to be quite honest, but something kept calling me to do it, something kept pushing me, and I kept saying no, 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 and yet the push was still coming. And every once in a while I get a little gentle reminder and a message, completely random, from outside of me externally, where I'm being gently guided to just do it. And what I realise is that, of course, YouTube is just a means to an end at the end of the day. It's just a means to an end. And the way I see it is, like, whatever the means is, in order to fulfill our work here, our sacred work, then this is the way. If this is the way I've got to do it, then this is the way that I'm going to do it. It's very uncomfortable. I still don't like it, but I'm doing it anyway. So there we go. So thank you to that lovely lady for emailing me during the week and telling me about that story about the soul saving, because it's so important. So that's it. My next video, I have a message to share about a meditation that I had. So this is the next important piece of information, because I am organising a group that I have been tasked with organising now. So I was quite happy just doing that in the galactics and the astral, just leading and coordinating groups. You know, that feels different. But now I've been tasked to actually do one here and to start up my own group. So that is in the makings. So I will make a video in that to kind of talk about it and say what exactly it is. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you've made it this far, once again, you've done really well for listening to me. Because yeah, anyways, talking on camera is not a natural thing to do. So, but thank you for listening, and thank you for believing. Thank you for doing the work. Main thing.